Hello everyone, my name is Casper, and I'd originally agreed to give this talk about 3 years ago, but the talk never happened, and to my horror, my old slides are still relevant, and I find it heartbreaking to see how little progress has been made on this front. Anyway, first off, I do know my audience. We are mostly open source champions, I think, so I can feel the palpable hostility, or at least skepticism, towards my title. Open source is bad, sure. But I think the first step to solving a problem is acknowledging its existence. And there are flaws in the current treatment of open source software, and I think we can fix these flaws, but we need to acknowledge they exist first. And I will try to focus on concrete legal rather than fuzzy moral issues, and hopefully leave you with some food for thought. Firstly, licensing. I do think this is a bit of a non-argument personally, but it is an ongoing debate, so I should mention it. You have effectively two sides. There is the open source standpoint, OSI standpoint, which is software can be used for good as well as evil. And you, as an open source developer, are not qualified to define, let alone stop, evil. Leave that to the police and to the courts. But then on the other hand, you have initiatives like the HPL, which gives you a list of checkboxes, and you can mark these off depending on your personal beliefs, and that will effectively add or remove paragraphs from a license. So you can build your own custom license. Some of these paragraphs might forbid the fossil fuel industry from using your software, for example. Now, wherever you land on the spectrum of permissive versus restrictive, I think it misses the point, which is it's impossible to police billions of potential end users. And forget about the billions, even when it comes to individual big companies, they will often ignore licenses when they, for example, gather data to train their machine learning models. I will not comment on Copilot or ChatGPT, so technically nobody can sue me, cough cough, but the point is, instead of trying to tackle the problem from billions of potential users, maybe we can tackle it from the other end, which is the millions of developers. Which leads me to warranties. Now, you could say open source developers provide you free software. You are not a paying customer, so why should they provide you with a warranty? But I think there's a dichotomy here, which is from a moral perspective, we say open source is reliable, it's trustworthy, the developers have so much faith in their code, they have released it to the world to review and audit. But then on the other hand, we say from a legal perspective, oh, there's no warranty, there's no guarantee, we don't have any trust or reliability here. And that's a mixed message. So the problem, I think, is we apply this buyer beware philosophy to users who did not pay for anything. And the question is, should users have more or less rights than a buyer? I don't think it's a trivial question. Another way of putting this is buyers are covered by consumer protection laws, but who protects the general digital public? I think we lack basic oversight here. A nice analogy I like to think about is in terms of hardware rather than software. So let's say, for example, I decide to physically make 1 billion rubbish bins and distribute them around the planet and have them regularly cleaned. Would you be happy with me? And probably entire governments would rise up and say no, purely in the interest of public safety. They would want to stop me making everyone dependent on my temporarily free system and then holding the world to ransom. So if we have these sort of checks and balances for physical hardware, why not digital software as well? If a package is being downloaded over 100,000 times annually, maybe we should have some formal support for it? And there are actually some initiatives trying to tackle this problem. Let's say a big company depends on free and open source software, but they're concerned about their supply chain and this reliance. They could pay an independent organization. Tidelift is an organization that I know of, for example, which will collect this money and forward most of it to developers and maintainers of individual widely used open source packages in return for some basic guarantees. Full disclosure, Tidelift does actually fund some of my projects, but they don't know that I'm doing this talk. They're not paying me to say this, and it's also less than minimum wage. But at least it's a baby step in the right direction. And I think we need more initiatives like this. We need NGOs and governments to take notice. And I find it odd that we have honors and awards and grants and knighthoods for work that has a physical impact in society, but relatively little recognition for software. Anyway, I think I'm out of time. There are many other issues and potential solutions for open source in general. I'm always happy to have a chat about fully and even partially open source business models and general software consultancy. My email is on my GitHub profile, quite easy to find. And I hope I've left you with some food for thought, not just a rant of problems, but also some practical solutions. Anyway, thanks for listening, and I wish you happy coding.